Welcome to the Big Game Hunting Podcast, where we help hunters like you prepare for the big game hunting adventures you've always dreamed of. Now, here's your host, John McAdams.
Hello, John McAdams here. Welcome to episode 313 of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. I feel like the term game changer gets thrown around way too often in this industry. Sure, a tripod that's 2 ounces lighter or a cartridge that's 100 feet per second faster are both cool and beneficial, but I wouldn't describe either one of those things as a true game changer. However, I will say that Leupold's new RX 5000 rangefinder does actually deserve the title of a truly game-changing device. So Tim Lesser from Leupold is back on the show to talk about that new rangefinder and what makes it so special and why so many people are calling it a true game-changing innovation in the industry. Now, in addition to talking about this new RX 5000 rangefinder, Tim and I also talk about a couple of Leupold's other new products for 2024, along with the highlights of their spotting scope and rangefinder product lines. Now, Tim was last on the show in episode 256. In that episode, we talk about the company history and the details of Leupold's hunting scope and hunting binocular product lines, and we also talk a little bit about their warranty. We're not going to talk about any of that stuff in this episode, so click the link in the show notes to listen to our previous interview in episode 256 to learn more about those specific things. Now, before Tim and I dive into things today, the Big Game Hunting Podcast is about to celebrate its 5-year anniversary. In honor of crossing that milestone, we are giving away a hunt in Africa to a deserving military veteran, along with a literal pile of other amazing prizes for other podcast listeners. And I also have an update to the prize list. Bergara recently confirmed that they are joining in the party as well. They are donating a Crest Steel rifle and 300 Win Mag that I'm going to be giving away to another lucky podcast listener. They're a late addition to the giveaway, but I am happy to have them on board, and you can enter to win that Bergara rifle the same as all of the other prizes. Those other prizes include a Mossberg Patriot rifle and 6.5 Creedmoor, some Nosler trophy-grade ammo, a Banish 30 from Silencer Central, a Meadowlark knife from Simbita Custom Knives, a set of Axel X-Core ear protection, some Spartan Precision bipods, and an autographed copy of The Perfect Shot 2 by Kevin Robertson. Click the link in the show notes and sign up. Now, make sure that you click the link in the email you may receive from me afterwards asking you to confirm your email address. Your entry in the giveaway is not complete until you do that. I'm sending out another batch of those confirmation emails today, Thursday, so take this opportunity to finalize your entry when you get that email if you signed up a long time ago and didn't confirm. You can get additional entries in the giveaway by rating and reviewing the show in whatever podcatcher you use. Send me pictures of your rating and review to john@thebiggamehuntingblog.com. You can also get additional entries by tagging friends in my past and future Instagram posts about the giveaway. Other details on the giveaway, to include how to nominate a deserving military veteran to receive that hunt in Africa, are in episode 306. Check it out for more information. Once again, also a link in the show notes to that episode. Okay, let's get started talking with Tim about the new stuff from Leupold. Well, good morning, Tim. It is great talking to you today, and it is wonderful having you back on the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be back and go over some of the new stuff.
So it was a pleasure finally getting to meet you in person at SHOT Show this year. And when I was speaking of SHOT Show, one of the really big things that seemed like a lot of people were talking about there was your new Mark IV rifle scope. So let's start off with some of the new stuff for this year. We'll talk about the Mark IV. We'll talk about your new binoculars, and we'll dive into some other stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
So what is special about the Mark IV rifle scope?
So the Mark IVs are it's a brand new family of rifle scopes, and so when we look at our product lines, generally the number Mark IV, Mark V, that's a zoom ratio, and so this is a whole new family of rifle scopes with a 4-to-1 zoom ratio, and we've got kind of 5 different magnification ranges. So a 1 to 4.5, a 2.5 to 10. 4.5 to 18, and then we're getting into some of the more exciting ones for a lot of the long range shooters, which are the 6 to 24 and the 8 to 32. And so really what we focused on here was how do we get a lot of the same features that we have proven to be very valuable for long range shooting. So, oversized adjustments so you can get 3 turns, locking dials, first focal plane reticles. How do we get that into a package that's going to allow people to be more approachable in that, starting at $1,000 type of a range? And so that was really our mission here, was how do we get all the long range functionality out of a rifle scope line, but then hit that sweet spot where people that are just entering into precision rifle series or NRL hunter, or even just kind of Western hunting, how do we get all those features packed into something that's at a little bit more approachable price? And so that was the overall mission on the Mark IV HD, and I think we've done a pretty darn good job with that.
Now, do I understand correctly that there was an older Mark IV? I guess was it just a Mark IV, not a Mark IV HD, and then you made all these changes, and the HD is the new scope?
That is correct. Yeah. So there's a long legacy for those that have been Leupold brand fans for a while. The Mark IV was a product line that we had even clear back into the 80s that was basically built for military type application for contracts. And it was called the Mark IV. It was a 3-to-1 zoom ratio. At that time, there weren't scopes that had higher zoom ratios. And this is kind of trying to take that heritage of being military ready, but commercially viable, for kind of standard consumers, all of the performance that you need to go on deployment, but at a price that commercially is viable. And so this really hits that spot very, very well. And so this is just trying to pay homage to that, and actually it performs even better than those did, as you might expect, with something that's 40 years newer, if you will.
Yeah. Back when I was in the Army, one of my last jobs I had was I was a cavalry troop commander. And when we were in Afghanistan, I remember my sniper section within my troop had a bunch of cool sniper rifles and whatnot. And if I recall correctly, it's been a while, but those were the old Mark IV scopes that they had on them. And I remember, at the time, I think I might have had like a Leupold VX2 or a Very X2 or whatever, one of the old ones, whatever you made way back then. And I thought that was a high-end scope. And then I started looking at these. I was like, holy cow, man, this is the most amazing scope I've ever seen in my life. And so what is different about those older scopes that you've upgraded with the newer stuff besides the 4x zoom ratio? Sure.
Yeah. One of the big things is just progression. And so as part of the kind of the history, if you will, the milling reticles or mill radian, those started out as just mill dots, and they were really designed to act as a rangefinder. So if you think before we had laser rangefinders, or even now in a military application, before you had the 1550 versions, which are not visible to night vision, there was no way to know how far away your target was. And so the mill dot reticle allowed you to measure a known sized thing, like the height of a person or the width of a window or something, with these dots. And the farther away it is, the smaller it looks compared to the grid, and you can determine the range. What was interesting was the reticle was used for ranging, but people were comfortable with MOA, having been hunters. So you had mill reticles in MOA-based scopes on the adjustments, and that required some math and some other things. That is no longer the case. So now if you get a mill reticle in a Mark IV HD, you'll also have mill radian adjustments, so 10th mill clicks. If you get an MOA reticle, you'll get MOA clicks. And so that's one of the big things. But we've also gone in, more travel, better clarity, resolution, low light performance. All of those things have come quite a ways, and we really focus now on glare. Glare is kind of an unsung killer, if you will, for optics out there. You get a little bit of light coming in from the front, say a setting sun, trying to look into at a target that's in the shade, but the sun's back behind it. All of those things can really wash out your target, and we've focused a lot on making sure that these will work in any lighting conditions. And so the team did a fantastic job accomplishing all those goals.
Okay, very good. Now, is this a deal where, as you guys, you have this big catalog of products and there's always new innovations going on with lots of different aspects of it on the glass side of things and then on the accessories and all that. And every so often you will go through and, make a big upgrade to one of your older product lines, but you can't do every single product line every year. And so is it kind of on a rotating basis like that, how that works? And this was the year for the Mark IV?
It is, yeah. When you look at we've got 80 some engineers here, probably pushing 90 right now, and that seems like a lot. But when you've got a machine shop and everything we have from optical to electronics to mechanical, all the way down through manufacturing, engineering, quality, there's just too many jobs to get done. If I could wave a wand, I'd be trying to change a lot of our products a little bit faster. But in order to go through and really do these products justice, you're spending a few years on each of these, trying to really implement the right changes for the right use case, and then make it, last forever. And so the Mark IV, it was time for that. The Mark V was the product before that, and we spent years perfecting the optical prescription, the tracking, all the important features for a long range scope. And then, as you might expect, a lot of that then cascades down through the line, which really enabled us to make the Mark IV HD in a little bit tighter timeline. We already had a lot of the learning from the Mark V, if you will, and then we could cascade that down into the Mark IV.
And so, do I understand correctly that the Mark IV HD is a scope that some people use it for hunting, and you could certainly do that, but this is more of a tactical / competition shooting oriented scope?
Yes, it is. So what we try to do is look at the design intent. People can use the scope however they would like. And we use kind of an F-150, in pickups, because that's kind of something that a lot of people can picture. They were built to, be rugged off-road and carry heavy loads and work on construction sites. But that doesn't mean somebody can't lower it and use it to haul a boat in the summer. With these, we try to focus on shooting scopes. So what are the right feature sets for people that are going to go shoot long range, whether it's steel targets or other things? If you really need to reach out a long ways, you need things like a larger diameter main tube, larger adjustments so that you can turn them multiple times, 3 full revolutions. And then on the hunting side, we focus more on lightweight and compact, and trying to make sure that the scope is, functional out to the right hunting distances, but we're probably not going to, focus on getting you out to a mile plus on a hunting scope. And that's what we've done here. We've focused on long range shooting with the Mark IV line, and the right adjustments and features that you need. But that also makes it a really good scope if you're in Western hunting where you may need to shoot a ways, or you want to look a long distance, or the temperature isn't going to let you turn the power all the way to high, but you want your reticle to sub 10 correctly. And so the use case or the design focus intent was for long range shooting. And boy, a lot of hunters are grabbing it though, because it works really well for what they're trying to do.
Okay, fair enough. Well, anything else you want to talk about with the Mark IV HD before we talk about your BX4 Pro Guide Gen 2?
No, I think that pretty well covers it. They've got zero locks on the elevation and the windage. That's one thing that people like to talk about. The Mark V did not have a zero lock, dial on the windage. And then you've got the same throw lever on the power selector, so it's easy to change between high and low. One of the things we did here was we tried to make the back half of the scope, so from your adjustment turret back to the eyepiece, the same. So whether you get the 1 to 4.5 or the 8 to 32 or anything in between, all of those controls are in the same place. So muscle memory on what do I need to do, where do I need to reach, which way does it turn, all of those things are consistent throughout the line. So other than that, I think we touched on most of it.
All right, sounds good. Well, we talked last time you were on about your old regular BX4 Pro Guide binoculars, but you've released a Gen 2 version of those binoculars today. So can you tell us what is new with them?
Sure. On the second generation model, we've gone through and touched everything in terms of optics, so lenses, coatings, prisms, and really just tried to again focus on two key things: resolution, so that allows a hunter to pick out that white throat patch or an ear tip or an antler tip, and really determine, hey, that's not a twig or a stick, that's a slightly different color, that might be an antler tip sticking out of the brush. So we doubled down on the optics there. And then we've also changed the way that the eye cup system works. And that's the more obvious thing when you look, that you can see there's interchangeable eye cups on the system. But realistically, it is a whole new binocular from the ground up. Just trying to make sure that optical performance, if you're going to sit in glass all day, does everything that you need it to, and then some. And so that was the biggest piece. On the outside, they look fairly similar, but everything internally and then those eye cups have changed to just try to make long-term viewing even more comfortable and more productive for the average hunter.
Now, is this a deal where the Generation 2 is going to completely replace the old legacy Gen 1 version of the binoculars?
It is. Yeah, you'll see that now that we've kind of rolled these changes and updates in here, that this will be the one that's available for sale. So the Gen 1 will go away over time, and then the Gen 2 will completely replace that.
Now, looking on the Leupold website, I see an 8x42, a 10x42, and a 12x50 version of binoculars. Actually, it looks like there's two. There's a 10x42 and a 10x50. Okay, got it.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Understand. Okay, so very, very good. So it looks like just real solid all around. What's the term here? Very flexible binoculars that you could use for a lot of use cases.
Yeah, this one's really that workhorse, right? If you're not sure which one to go with, then it's probably this one. It'll do the most. It has the most versatility in terms of size, weight, optical performance, and then just versatility on matching up to your face, appropriately with the different style of eye cups. But yeah, this is the one that most people will get the most bang for their buck out of, for sure.
Okay, very good. Well, let's switch gears a little bit now. Talk about we'll hit pause on the new stuff. Let's talk about your spotting scope and rangefinder lines, and then we'll talk about your other new real hot product that you guys are literally just now releasing as we release this episode. So let's talk spotting scopes. Very first spotting scope I ever bought long time ago was a SX1 Ventana, I think that's how you pronounce it. And it looks like you guys upgraded that and then discontinued that, and now your lowest or your entry level spotting scope is the SX2. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we have gotten to a place where we can get the optical performance that we needed and wanted at that same price point, but it does, frankly, significantly outperform the SX1 line, which is where that Ventana was. Mm-hmm. And so that's just advancements in engineering and design and other things. So the Alpine HD is an SX2 because it performs higher. On the binocular and spotting scope line, those numbers kind of denote optical performance, if you will.
All right. So I see in the SX2 line, you have a 20 to 60 by 80 and a 20 to 60 by 60 millimeter, both angled versions of the scope. My SX1 was fine for work at the range, but it was just a little big and heavy for me to be taking a field. Is that sort of the niche that the SX2 fits to?
It is, yeah. We've seen over time that people have shifted without getting too far into whether you like an angled eyepiece or a straight. But we've found that the adoption over to angled, which in my opinion are a lot more comfortable, whether it's at the range or in the field for extended viewing. But yes, we've stepped up, and what this is trying to do is get you the most optical performance for the least weight. This is really kind of that high value proposition, and that's why you see the 20 to 60 by 60 or the 26 to 60 by 80. So if you're trying to shave ounces and you're probably not going to be looking long distances in low light, then that 60 millimeter objective allows you to do all of that. Because, in the morning, it's kind of a 50-50 shot. If I'm looking 3 miles right at dark, I'm probably not going to get there today anyway. But I might want to know what's over there. But if I'm going to be carrying it most of the time and then just trying to check out certain features, okay, are there any bulls in that herd? Then that 60 millimeter allows you to shave those ounces and still carry it and still get all the power that you wanted, all the magnification. And you can use the whole range on these. There's enough resolution to, if you need to turn it up to 60, you're still going to be able to see a nice clear image.
Okay, very good. Anything else you want to talk about with the SX2 before you move up to the 4?
No, I think that covers it. It's just a very, very high performing for the dollar type of a spotting scope. It's a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I felt about the SX1 way back in the day. I mean, for what I paid for it, it worked great. I mean, I still have it all these years later.
Good. Yeah, that's we don't want to start with spotting scopes. The entry level needs to be a little bit higher. And honestly, just thinking back to when I first started with spotting scopes, I didn't think about the fact that I'm trying to magnify it by 60 times, right? And so trying to get a spotting scope for call it $100 or $200, you're really starting to get what you paid for there. It makes everything bigger, but you can't see it any better. And so we've just decided to really focus on that resolution so that when you turn it up, it's clear enough to use at 60 power. And that's why we've bumped up to that SX2. It'll do every bit of that.
Well, tell us about the next step up with the SX4.
Okay. Yeah, so as we get to the Pro Guide, we're kind of in that same situation that we just talked about on the Gen 2 binocular, where it's the all-around kind of best value. So the SX4 is also a Pro Guide, and we've done that because these are kind of on par optically. You're getting higher resolution, higher glare reduction, some of those things. But we've also broadened the line, so you can get a 65 millimeter objective or an 85. So for those that want to go, higher power but have a larger objective, and then you can go angled or straight on the eyepiece. So if somebody really does like having a straight eyepiece, they can get that in the Pro Guide line. And this is just that next step up in optical performance. So if you're going to be sitting and glassing through it for hours on end, it's probably worthwhile to step up because you're just going to find a little more comfort and a little more detail and sharpness as you get up to the Pro Guide line. And so this is, again, that kind of that workhorse level for us, where if someone's not quite sure, do I need the best? Do I need kind of an entry level? Odds are this Pro Guide is the one that will do what they need it to the best. And so that's our goal here. These range from 15 to 45 power on the smaller objective, on the 65, or you have a 20 to 60, which is a pretty common zoom ratio, and that comes with an 85 millimeter objective, just a little larger so that you can keep a little bit larger exit pupil in low light. As you step up, you're getting better glass. Really, what you're getting is not the glass itself. You're getting features inside to reduce glare. Prism changes, some of those things that do just cost more money in order to get the color separation more and more under control. You need tighter and tighter tolerances on prisms. Some of those things. And so essentially what you get as you go up is better image quality, whether that be glare, resolution, or light transmission. We balance all three of those because they're all needed. And as you step up from the Alpine to the Pro Guide, you go up a notch, and the same is true as you go up to the Santiam.
And so just like with binoculars, your number 4 model is the Pro Guide, and the number 5 model is the Santiam. So is this your highest end spotting scope for hunters?
It is, yeah. So the SX5 Santiam, you'll notice a couple things. The zoom ratio is a little lower on this one. So in the Pro Guide, we went from 20 to 60. On the Santiam, we go from 27 to 55. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that is the magnification level that we find most people use. So if we just go out and watch, Just pay attention to people. They're we're not asking them what they use. We're just observing what most people, most hunters are using, and they find themselves somewhere between 30 and 50 power most of the time, whether it be due to heat mirage or field of view, light conditions, whatever that is. But if we go back and kind of constrain, if you will, the spotting scope down to that zoom ratio, now you can really get the best out of the optics over that certain range. And so that's what we opted to do here, was really get hyper focused on what power settings do hunters use and how do we make those as completely pristine as possible. And so that's what you've got with the Sani M. You go up in price here, but you're getting a lot of performance for those people that are going to sit and look through the spotting scope all day. It's a noticeable difference. For people that are going to sit in glass for an hour and then move on, sit in glass for an hour and then move on, you may not notice quite as much of that. But if you've been on the glass for 8 to 10 hours, you'll definitely notice the improvement there, and you'll find more game with it just because of the resolution and the way that it's managed. But we just essentially got very, very focused on exactly what do you need and what do you not need, and that's what the Sani M was built to do.
Okay, very good. So I'm assuming that your Gold Ring and your Mark IV spotting scopes are more for the competition shooting / tactical applications then?
Yeah, exactly. So those are on a folded light path design to keep them short and really lightweight. But the other thing is, the difference there is we're not using prisms. We're using an actual erector system like you find in a rifle scope, so that we can put reticles in there, make them front focal, but also you get a little more eye relief. So if you think about needing to wear eye protection, so if, for military or for combat applications, you've got eye protection on, so you can't be right up on the lens, or any movement of your head, which those can be stressful environments. And so this allows you to be off of the scope a little bit and still have eye probe between you and the lens and still get a full sight picture. So you've got a little longer eye relief on the Gold Ring and the Mark IV, and they're based on an erector so that they're short, compact, lightweight, and then you can lay them on their side. You can hold them upside down. There's a number of different reasons that you might want to do that. But generally in combat, you don't want your head being the highest thing. You want the lens to be the highest thing. And so you can flip those Mark IVs upside down and they almost act like a periscope to look over the brush while you're down low.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, pretty cool. Well, anything else you want to talk about with spotting scopes before we move on to rangefinders?
No, I think I could go on for hours, but I don't know that people want to listen to much more detail than that. But if there are questions, let me know. But I think we covered it pretty well.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk about your entry level RX 1400 rangefinder.
Okay, yeah, on the RX 1400, that was the intent. There was really to get the most capability in your hand as possible. So if you look at the 1400i, it's a TBRW, which stands for True Ballistic Range with Wind. Now, that does not mean that it's reading the wind. I wish we could do that with a handheld laser, but that's a much bigger math problem than you can do handheld. And so really what you're getting here is a whole ton of performance. It'll range out to 1,400 yards. You've got some archery specific and some rifle or firearm specific ballistics profiles in there. And this is just kind of packing everything together that we see that's the most popular. People like that red display as opposed to black. I don't know if you've spent much time with these, but a lot of rangefinders had an LCD display that was had black numbers, kind of like a digital watch would have back in the day, or an old calculator. But those cut down on a lot of light transmission because you're looking through that display. And so it's almost like using sunglasses, which is tough for hunters because animals move at first light or last light. So we've added that red display, which increases the light transmission through there. We've got a bow mode in there that will also tell you the high point of your arrow. So it's kind of a clear shot type of a thing. We call it flight path. And so you can see the highest point of your your trajectory on your arrow to know if you're going to clear any obstructions when you take that shot. And then we've got the ability for, in the rifle settings, if you will, to calculate your drop in mil, MOA, or even to calculate directly for your CDS dial, where it just tells you the straight line distance. You turn your dial on your scope to match it and hold dead on and hit. So very, very feature rich, but easy to use in kind of a basic rangefinder. Push the button, get the range, take your shot.
I'll tell you, we've come a long way in just a few years to get all that sort of stuff in a rangefinder that you can hold in your hand and with an MSRP of $199.99 too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think both of us remember when you could spend $800 on a rangefinder and it would range about 300 yards, which was the max point blank range on a lot of rifles. So why did you need it in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, 100%. So that is your entry-level rangefinder. Nothing wrong with it, but you also make a couple models that are quite a bit better. So what additional features do you get with the RX 2800?
Yeah, so with the 2800, as you work your way up, you're going to get a lot more distance. So those numbers, I should probably mention this, when it says RX 1400 or RX 2800, those numbers are the ranging distances. So now you're getting twice the distance. Those are, in full disclosure, those are reflective targets, and there's not, a ton of deer running around with a highway sign beside them. But we also optimize these to be very long range capable on non-reflective targets. And so we spec how far can you range trees? How far can you range a deer hide? But realistically, what you're getting is double the ranging distance. You do not have a bow mode in the 2800. It was kind of designed for longer range, wide open spaces. And so that one's really a precision long range instrument. It also has the TBR true ballistic range with wind, and that wind just will tell you in a 10-mile-an-hour crosswind with your rifle, with your ballistics, how much would that drift affect your bullet placement. And so the 2800 gives you a little more magnification because you're trying to look farther generally, and it will range twice as far.
And so I understand correctly with these rangefinders, you have a couple different ballistic profiles in it that come close to matching the ballistic trajectory of several different rifle loads that fit into those categories. So if you're shooting a 300 Win Mag with a 180 grain Accubon bullet or something like that, you have a sheet that comes with it to say, okay, use this profile, and it will get you pretty close with that stuff. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah. So the idea here is, instead of needing to go in and put in a ton of detail, it's this bullet at this velocity, in this elevation, temperature, height above bore. You are essentially, for hunters, you're going to go into a list of, there are 25. It's a table that comes with it, and you just look down the list and you pick what you're hunting with, and then you just set a number. So you just set it once. It's a very fast setup, and now it's looking at your trajectory, and it will give you, most people are using it for yardage, but you can also, it'll tell you mils have come up or MOA have come up based on a ballistics group. So we've erred on the side of speed here so that you can do this quickly and easily. And generally for hunting distances, I don't want to get into necessarily my personal opinions on how far is, an ethical shot, but these will get you out to 800 yards, and it'll be less than a half minute off. So for me, a half minute of error out to 800 is more than what I need for any hunting situation. And that was the goal here, was to make it fast, simple, and very hunting friendly.
So with this, you take what you find what group your chosen hunting load fits into. You set up the rangefinder for that. You range your target, and depending on the settings that you have in it, it'll tell you, okay, at this range, you need to come up 2.25 MOA, and with a 10-mile-an-hour crosswind, you need to hold X number of MOAs. Is that right?
Well said. Yep, yeah. That's exactly what it does, and it's compensating for shot angle, because the bullet follows an arc. not a straight line like the laser uses. So your ballistics do have an effect on how you compensate for up angles, down angles, and the severity of that angle. So it does all of that for you, and either gives you a hold or gives you a yardage that has been compensated for, where the angle has been compensated for. So now you just turn to whatever that drop setting is and shoot.
And so if you have a Leupold scope, for instance, with a custom dial on it, you can just use the yardage setting. And so you're shooting downhill at something, it calculates the straight line range to it, takes the angle into consideration, and tells you to hold for 363 yards, for instance, and you turn your scope to that if you want to do it that way then.
Yes. Yeah, it's doing all that trajectory calculation for you and essentially turning it into, if this was a flat, straight shot, what do I need to dial for? So you don't have to worry about, how do I compensate? It's doing that. So you just match the distance. If you have CDS and it says 363, you turn it to the mark closest to 363 yards and hold right where you want to hit.
Okay, very good. So I had one of your other rangefinders. I think it was one of your older rangefinders that you've since improved upon and discontinued. But I remember back when I got that all those years ago, just blowing my little mind on how that stuff worked. And then after that, I graduated to some different things and whatnot. That rangefinder worked just fine for me, but I was just able to get better things because things continue to grow and develop and all of that stuff. Kind of like what you guys did with, say, your range-finding binoculars. We talked about them a little bit last time you were on the show, but can you hit the highlights of the BX4 range-finding binoculars?
Sure. Yeah. So from a kind of a 30,000 foot level, this is a 10 by 42 HD quality binocular. We've really, again, focused on the optics because if it's going to be your primary viewing tool, you don't want things like a bluish tint, which is common in a lot of rangefinders, especially rangefinding binoculars. You want a crisp, pristine image. So that was job number one for us, was to make this the best binocular out there in terms of optics. Then we coupled that with the rangefinding component, which it'll range out to 2,600 yards on reflective. So what does that mean on trees? You still get 1,600 yards. So plenty of ranging distance here. It's got the red OLED display. So really what we tried to do was combine all the most popular features, if you will. So a 10 by 42 that's lightweight with really, really good optics. These are best in class by a long shot. And then put a 2,600 yard rangefinder in it that will do all those same things that we just talked about, compensating for the shot angle and the ease of use that hunters need, where you may not have time to pull out a Kestrel and do some of those things in a hunting environment. You want to push the button, know exactly what to dial your scope to, and take that shot all in a matter of seconds. This is the best way to get that done.
And so are these binoculars, did you put all of that stuff inside the regular BX4 binocular body, or is it physically a little bit bigger than the straight just BX4 binoculars?
It is physically slightly larger because you need to put when you think about a rangefinder, you're essentially sending a beam. It's a bunch of pulses, but you're sending a beam out and it has to come back in through a collector. So you're adding electronics in there, you're adding a display in there, and then you need a send channel and a receive channel. So all those things need to be kind of packed into the same form factor. So it is slightly larger. And then, of course, you have a battery on board, so you add a little bit of weight. But optically, we wanted to strive for that same performance. And so that's what you get here is when you look through it, you can't tell that it's a range-finding binocular. That was job one. It needs to work as good as a non-range-finding binocular and then add that capability. So it adds a little bit of size, but pretty negligible. Still drops into the same, it still fits in your hands really well. Mostly it's the engineers that are going to tell you that it grew. When you grab the two, you'll notice a slight weight difference because of the display and the board and the battery. But other than that, they're basically the same size, and you just get a lot more capability.
And even though it's a tiny bit bigger and heavier, the idea being that you combine two pieces of gear into one. And if you're replacing regular binoculars and a regular rangefinder with a little bit bigger and heavier rangefinding binocular, your overall weight is lighter then.
That is the goal. And also for those of us that have been out there where you're looking through a 10 power binocular at your deer, elk, target, hillside, whatever it is, and then you switch and you take that down off of your eyes and you grab the handheld binocular off of your hip, and now you're looking through something that has like 6 times or 7 times magnification. Everything looks different. And so you get this delay where you're going back and forth between two optics saying, okay, I see the thing. Now how do I range the thing? Oh, where was it? Is that it? So you go back to your bino. This way, just when you're already looking at it, you just push a button and you're done. And so you get the added benefit of the 10 power as well. And so it just makes everything a lot more seamless. Overall weight and bulk is reduced as compared to having two, but the time to target and the ability to, if you're hunting with a buddy and range for them and watch where the shot goes and keep ranging, you're not switching back and forth. And that part is huge.
Yeah, fair enough. Makes sense. And so for, to be specific here, the RX 1400 has a 5x magnification. The 2800 has a 7x magnification. And then the BX4 has a 10 power magnification. Anything else we need to talk about with, these models before we talk about our last product today, which is your newest and coolest product of 2024?
No, I think, I've been doing my best to stay patient on all of this. I would love to jump into the new one. These ones are great, and we're super excited about the new one because just like any of this stuff, you get better with every iteration, and so we're pretty excited about that next step. But I think we covered it all.
Well, very good. So you guys have a brand new rangefinder coming out this year that has some game-changing technology in it. Big leap forward in technology, especially for what you guys currently offer. So take it away. Tell us about the RX 5000.
Okay. Yeah. So the RX 5000 is a handheld monocular. So when this airs, we'll have launched it. So it'll be out. It'll be on the website, and you can look at it. It is a handheld monocular. It will range out to 5,000 yards, and you can do a number of pretty cool things with it. But I might just jump right into the first one that catches most people's attention. If you've got a rangefinder in your hand and that rangefinder knows where it is and where you're pointing it, well, now when you push the button and range the target, it also knows where that target is. And so we have what we call a pinning technology in the RX 5000. So if you see a deer on the other hillside or you're trying to mark targets on a course of fire, you have the option to range the target, and then it will pop up on your map, your mapping software on your phone. So OnX is probably the most widely known, at least out in the West. And so if I see a bedded down mule deer somewhere, the number of times that I've stayed up high, put a deer to bed, and then tried to stalk in there, say with a bow in my hands, for example, and set up on the wrong bush or the wrong tree, and waited all day, and then it stood up and it was 100 yards in a different direction. This eliminates that. So I just range that target. It drops a pin right on my map. And now I know exactly where it is. And so you can use that for, okay, I only need to get over to this rock, and then I should be able to see the elk come out of this hill, and it'll be a 400-yard rifle shot. To people out here that are stealing other people's fishing spots out off the coast because they see people catching fish, and they range the other boat and they drop a pin on that fishing hole.
My goodness.
It's being used for a lot of things, but it is an awesome technology, and we've gone to the next level on this. A lot of these technologies are plus or minus about a 10-degree error. So if you look at other products that do this, they're within about 10 degrees. Well, if you think about the average hunting scenario, you could be off by hundreds of yards if there's a 10-degree error in that. We are less than 1 degree. So what that means is even at 5,000 yards, you're generally going to be within 100 yards of that pin, no matter what. And so you drop a pin, even out there at the farthest ranging distance, you'll be within 100 yards of that. And so it's great for, locating a bedded animal, or if you shoot and one's running out of a green field or out of a big clearing of some sort, and you see that's where I saw it last, you can range that. So now you have the spot where you took the shot and the spot where you last saw the animal, and you can begin blood tracking from there. The uses are kind of endless on this, and it'll drop onto your Onyx maps, it'll drop onto Google Maps, Apple Maps, and we'll continue expanding that because there's a lot of people have their pet mapping, app or software, and they're probably going to want it to work there.
A couple of years ago, I was on a hunt out in Arizona, dealing with exactly these sort of situations that you were talking about. Up high, see an elk 1,200 yards away, and I'm looking at my phone, trying to find, do some terrain association on my phone. Okay, 1,200 yards that way. Okay, this is where I think it is. And you hold up the phone and you do that thing with Onyx and whatnot. And after that hunt, I was like, man, wouldn't it be nice if I could have just lazed it and had it go straight to my phone like that? And I realized that there were a couple of options out there that would do that sort of thing. But as far as I know, this rangefinder is the first one that will do that specifically with Onyx and not having to mess around with the third-party program or anything like that.
Yeah, it'll go right in there. And one of the things that I can kind of sense people's little feelers going up. Every time you range, it's not going to drop a pin. So you're not going to have all these little Leupold emblemed pins all over your maps. You get to choose whether you want to save that on there or not. But yes, it'll drop an icon that looks like a Leupold reticle logo when you want it to. And you do this through a phone app. So you say, hey, I either want to pin the one that I just sent, or you can say, hey, pin this next one. And then it'll drop a pin right directly to it. Pops up your Onyx and brings you right to that map page. So there's nothing else required. You just have to open the Leupold app. It runs in the background. It'll allow you to configure the rangefinder, so you're not trying to do it with button pushes on the unit. You can go through and pick your reticle and the other things on that app. But now when it's time and you see that elk and you're in that spot, and you say, where is he? You click the pin next button, you range him, and it shows up on your Onyx, shows you exactly where he is. And, away you go. It's incredibly handy.
That is very, very cool. And so talk about in the name, the RX 5000, I'm assuming that means it has a 5,000 yard ranging distance in it then, right?
It does, yeah. So it has an 8x magnification because, again, you may be looking at critters. You're really using this kind of as more of a navigational tool than a rangefinder, right? And so we kind of toyed with, is it more of a wayfinder than a rangefinder? But yes, it'll range out to 5,000. We have a remote fire capability on it. So if you want to mount it to a tripod, then you can range with your phone, so you're not physically moving it. And that's how you can get some of these extreme long distances, is it will go into this long range mode. You fire it from your phone, from the app, and it sits there and just keeps sending pulses over the course of, call it a minute or so. And then you can get ultra long range distances out of it. So a very capable navigational tool as well as just a distance finder.
And so it also looks like it has some of these other features that we talked about, like the true ballistic range, the wind hold, the inclinometer, however you want to say that, all of those things too, right?
Yes. Yep. So all the other things that we talked about with the inclinometer, so it'll take your shot angle into account, your ballistics. It'll do all of those things as well. And one of the handy parts, for me, I hunt a lot of the public land in wide open spaces, pick Montana or Wyoming. When you see these elk that are way out there, they may be two miles away, and you're trying to figure out, is there a fence in between me and them? Now you just range it and it drops a pin and says, yep, they're on public. Mm-hmm. Because I've got all of that right in front of me. And then, so now I can get over and get in position. And then when it comes time to take the shot, it will do all of the ballistic stuff that I need as well.
Now, you talk about it connecting with your phone. So I guess this has Bluetooth capability as well?
It does. Yeah, it has Bluetooth capability. There's a very small dim light on the back. One of the concerns was in low light, you don't want to have a big blue flashing beacon on your body. So There's a Bluetooth connectivity feature. The indicator is on the back of it towards the user, and it's the right intensity so that you can tell that it's on, but it doesn't mess anything up. And then it's connected and linked to your phone, but it just kind of sits there and it doesn't really drain anything. It's just sitting there connected, just like any other Bluetooth device.
Now, does the Leupold control app, does it already exist, or is that something that you guys designed specifically to work with this rangefinder?
It did not exist. So as of now, it is in the App Store, and so I think it's Google Play. I'm an Apple guy, but it's in both of the app stores and available. But it did not exist prior to this. The app is only intended to be like a product controller, right? So it's just so you can configure your rangefinder, and so that you can coordinate the pin going directly into OnX. It's not going to be a bunch of other things. It is just a useful tool, and that's it.
Okay, very interesting. Well, this is a really cool product that I have been excited to learn more about and to have actually physically released since I first heard whispers of it a while ago. So I'm glad it's here now, right? So we're releasing this on 2 May. You officially release it on 1 May. And so not only does it seem like it's got a cool product with some great features on it, retail price only $6.99 as well.
Yeah, that was the big one, is when we do a lot of testing to make sure that these things are working, right? We want to know it works. We don't ever want to have someone spend their hard-earned money on something and catch something that we didn't see. So we've been testing these for a lot, for over a year now. And most of the people thought that these things were going to be over $1,000, and it's just not necessary. We managed to get the tech jammed in there, and the sensors are very accurate. It does require one initial configuration, and there are, as far as calibration, right? But then you just have to be cognizant of having metal around it, whether it be an Apple Watch band that has a magnet, or a bino harness that has a magnetic enclosure, or ranging from inside of your pickup truck. All of those can have a little effect on, because of the metal in the truck, all those can have a little effect on the accuracy. But this thing, it just works, and it's $6.99, very, very obtainable for the power that you're getting out of it.
Yeah, so your RX 2800, I see, has MSRP of $599. So you get all that extra stuff for just an extra $100 MSRP. That's quite a deal.
It is. We're really excited about this one, and those of us that have had the luxury of testing it, now I don't quite know what to do without it when I'm not using it. It becomes an everyday use.
Yeah, when I was, once again, kind of going back to being in the Army, I remember we had a giant thermal device called a LRAS on it. This thing was, over $100,000, giant thing. You had to hook it up to a vehicle for power, or have a really, really big battery with it. And the thermal stuff on it was wonderful and everything, but I remember being extremely impressed that it had a laser rangefinder on it. Hit that button and it would give you a 10-digit grid, maybe even a 12-digit grid for wherever your crosshairs were on it. And I remember thinking, man, sure would be nice to have something like that was much less expensive, much smaller to use while hunting. And the future is here, it seems like.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting time to be able to do that. It's going to save people a lot of time and effort, and just understanding where do I need to go? Should I be going there? It never fails. I used to make a trip and I'd get over there and there'd be one fence line in between. Oops, they're standing there on public or on private, and I didn't know that. And so it's pretty exciting. I was amazed that the engineers could get all this done. We thought it was going to be over 1,000, and it doesn't need to be. So it's impressive. Technology is moving fast.
So your official release date of this was 1 May. When could people actually find this in stores to buy for themselves?
We are starting to ship it now. So with that whole intent. So we want to have these available and shipping and headed to retailers. They're already headed to retailers. So if they want to, when someone hears about this, if they're interested in picking one up, they can look on Leupold.com. And then there's a kind of a dealer finder. Where can I find one? How do I locate one near me? And it will direct them towards a list of places that either have them that should have them by then, or they're coming very, very soon. So these should be in stores about the time it drops.
Okay.
And then we'll just have to see.
Very good. Well, so the question that I have, and I understand if you can't answer it, you got the BX4 Range HD that you released previously. You got the new RX 5000 Rangefinder. Can we expect at some point in the future you're going to have those technologies combined where you have range-finding binoculars that will drop a pin?
Well, I think you read my mind. The engineering team and the product line managers are going to kill me if I confirm that, because I've been telling them not to confirm that. But I think that's a pretty logical step, right? When you look at this, it's a logical next step. And so, while I can neither confirm nor deny, I think people can figure out that that's likely where we're headed.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, good luck with those developments. And I hope that you guys are successful in that development and get it out here soon. But in the meantime, you got some good stuff out there. You know, this like you said, everybody loves, or darn near everybody that hunts out west uses Onyx. Right now, you can get a thing that you can fit in the palm of your hand for several $100s that will tell you exactly where something is. You can find a bedded elk or deer. You can steal somebody's fishing spot, all that sort of stuff with it. And man, it's just amazing where technology is taking us these days.
It is. And if somebody is concerned about it, they do come with a trial subscription, a free 3-month trial subscription to Onyx. So you don't need to go. You can try it out and see how you like it without any commitment to a new mapping software if you don't already have it.
Ah, very good. Well, that's a excellent boon for both you guys and for Onyx having that. But like you said too, if someone doesn't even want to try messing around with that, it already works with Apple Maps and with Google Maps, and so you can just use those other mapping services then too.
Yeah. Yep. You can do it that way. And you can even get latitude, longitude. That's kind of diving into the weeds a bit more. But if somebody has a preferred different system, you can get the exact location of that. And there are other ways to drop it in there. And we will be expanding our map coverage as well.
Okay. Well, very good. Anything else that we need to talk about with the BX 5000 or any of your other, the RX 5000 or any of your other products that you want to talk before we wrap up today, Tim?
No, I think that covers it. The RX 5000, there's a number of things. It's waterproof, half yard accuracy, all the things that you would come to expect there. We kind of get caught up on the pinning part because it's the cool new piece, but you get a lot of distance and a lot of performance and next gen features all the way throughout, whether it be accuracy or distance or any of those pieces. And so I think we covered that fairly well. If there's anything that you wanted to talk about, we can, but I just appreciate you having me and giving me a little bit of time to talk about this stuff. We're super excited. I'm glad to see it getting out there to the people.
I'm excited about it too. And I'll put links in the show notes to the Leupold website for these different products and whatnot, especially the RX 5000 for people that want to learn more. And I'm sure everyone's going to be excited to get their hands on one and test it out for themselves, afield and actually hunting and just messing around out there too. Yeah,
I think so. If the response we've seen from those who've tried it or any indication, I think this is going to be very, very popular.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, Tim, thanks a lot for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So like I mentioned, I think the RX 5000 is a fantastic new device that truly does deserve the game changer moniker. I've waited for something like this to come out for a long time, and I'm glad that it's finally here. Like I like to say sometimes, it feels like we're living in the future. Now, there is a link in the show notes to the product page on the Leupold website for the new RX 5000. Click that link to learn more. And I've also put a link in the show notes to episode 306 where you can learn more about the Big Game Hunting Podcast anniversary giveaway and how to enter. And click the other link in the show notes to enter the giveaway for a chance at winning one of those great prizes. Remember, you can make your dream hunt turn into a reality, and we can help. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next time on the Big Game Hunting Podcast.
This show may be over, but we have plenty more for you on our website. For more information on today's topic, as well as lots of other useful hunting resources, head over to the BigGameHuntingBlog.com. We look forward to having you back for the next episode. But until then, happy hunting.